in up to the engine in some places. All of that from just a few drops of rain. It just kept falling and kept falling and kept falling. And I think about what Satan does to us in life. In a very, what seems to be non-threatening way, all of a sudden everything starts piling up and you're in deep. And it will slow you down, it can overcome you, it can do harm to you. That's Satan's goal. Paul warns in Ephesians 6, reminding us of Satan's goal and our need to respond to that. Verse 10, he says, "Brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." As Christians, right up front, we need to be aware that none of us are strong of ourselves. But it's only what God can do for us and will do for us. He is the one, as Paul will describe in another letter, where he enabled him to be what he needed to be. So after talking about this strength that comes from God, he says to us, then, put on the whole armor of God. Not just armor, but it's an armor that God gives to you. Then he says that you may be able to stand, depending on your translation, against the wiles of the devil, against the schemes of the devil, against the deception of the devil. There are so many illustrations, or so many lessons, I guess it is, it keeps bringing me back to the very first sin described in Genesis 3 in the garden. Where there's Eve in the garden having, as it would be, a discussion with Satan. Now, does Eve know it's Satan? I guess not. Bad enough that it's a serpent, but maybe she's innocent because maybe she's not been around long enough, don't talk to serpents. She hadn't seen the sign up there with a serpent over with a little line through it, don't talk to it. Whatever it might be. And so she's having this conversation, and the serpent, Satan, brings to her something that she hadn't thought about. Now, the fruit she's thought about, she said we shouldn't eat that fruit. Well, that's good. Satan said, have you thought about it like this? And he describes it in such a way that she's got to have it. Schemes of Satan. I don't know how long he plotted that, but it worked very well. It worked effectively. Satan is the deceiver, he's described as. The one that continues to try as best he can to overcome us, to defeat us. So Paul's reminder is that I'm going to equip you, God says, through Paul's words, with everything I've got out there that you may be able to stand against the deceptiveness of Satan. Which means he's not going to come in like a giant. With all the weapons and archery and anything else you've got out there to overcome you. That look threatening. He comes in innocent. He comes in kindly. He comes in invitedly. He comes in tantingly, in any way he can, to arouse interest, to bring us into viewing what he has, and to consider maybe we're missing something by not listening to him. Paul says we don't wrestle, verse 12, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Maybe that doesn't sound scary to you, but when you keep pounding it time after time of all these different places that we don't see, they're out there and they're there to defeat us with a deceptiveness that we can't imagine. The exhortation, as we see at the beginning, is be strong, verse 14, and stand. And then verse 17, taking the helmet of salvation, and then adding to that, praying always. And several things in there, but the point is, as Christians, we are to stand with God. As Christians, God equips us. As Christians, we need to realize that Satan is out there to deceive us. one drop at a time, until all of a sudden you're going down the road, everything's overwhelming you. But God's there to get you through. That's why you're here tonight. To remind yourselves of the great importance of standing together and standing with God. If you found your life isn't standing with God, if you're living a lie, if your Christianity is fake, or if it's just weak and you just need some prayers, or maybe you don't have a Christianity because you've never been baptized, you never made that commitment, tonight we invite you to stand with Jesus. Come forward while we stand and sing.